Hello, hello, hello. This is, I know, a very awkward time for me to come on live, but well, there's a situation that happened. So, um, this was something kind of last minute and totally unplanned, but glad that you guys are here. Um, I was actually supposed to be on a live session with Katie of the Greenland Quilter, and she sent me an email saying that she wasn't feeling well. So, um, that's why if you were expecting to for us to go on live on her channel, that is the reason why we are not doing that today. So hope um, I don't know if Katie's going to watch this, but hope she's feeling better. So I was going to work on the Tula Pink butterfly quilt again, but then sometimes you just need a break from a project. So I am sewing a bunch of, or I'm going to be sewing some string blocks today, and just wanted to, and since this was totally unplanned, I figure I just come on, and I'm supposed to be on live anyway with on a different channel, but I figured just come on, uh, do some string blocks because, well, it's looking a little full here. I mean, usually I don't have this much in here, but yeah, I kind of need to use up pieces. And honestly, um, well, this is my string stash now. I mean, this is the smallest it's ever been in a number of years. So I need to build it back up. And what better time to do it than the present? So, yeah. Hope, let's see. But before, well, you know what? I kind of started a little bit, but I was kind of just thinking maybe I should just take a break today and take it easy because I got home yesterday after work at about 5 or 6, and just kind of plopped myself on the bed. I did have the TV on because there is a TV in my bed, which is not in my bedroom, which is not really a good idea. But had the TV on, was just kind of scrolling through um, some other YouTubers that I do watch that are not really quilting related. And next thing I knew, I woke up and it was 8 a.m. this morning. So, needless to say, yes, I was very tired. And I kind of thought, maybe I should just have a chill and relax day. But then I thought, you know what? People are going to probably start to wonder what happened if they were expecting me to be on with Katie and they don't know, or I'm not sure you know, if Katie put a notice on her channel. Actually, I did look earlier and I didn't see any notification. She may have put it on on her Facebook group or somewhere else, but kind of figured, you know what? Let's just turn on the camera. Let's just do something easy. And so that we're not leaving everybody out there in the dark about what happened. And I just got caught up in some strings there. So I figured just come on for a couple of minutes, maybe an hour or so, and just sew something. Because I really didn't want to put myself in a thinking mode and do that quote. Um, so I know this is a very unusual time for me to be on, but yeah, we're here. So let's do our usual routine and see who else is here today. Um, hello, hello, Miss Linda. Glad you made it here. Glad that you're joining me. Hi, Donna. And Mickey LeHue. Hello, hello, Mickey. Um, Let me switch this up. Sorry. I'm just kind of moving my computer screens around here. Okay, that's better. Scroll all the way up. I commented and then got booted. Okay. Well, we saw it, Donna, so we know you're here. Donna Bogart is here. Hello. Hi, Terry. Hi, Judy. Surprise, we're here. Yes, Donna, I'm glad you guys are here because otherwise it would have been awkward if I was actually on live and nobody showed up. That's always my greatest fear. Actually, I've had nightmares about that where you start a live and it's like crickets out there. Nobody's in the chat. Nobody shows up. So you end up just talking to yourself. And I always say that. Yes. Hi, Lori. Maria Nunez says, hope she's feeling better soon. Yes, me too. I know we kind of made the plan for this live all the way back in July. And so I know she was kind of looking forward to it because she kind of reminded me. And then this happens where she doesn't feel good. So, you know, just hope that she feels better and hope that she is taking care of her health. That's a very important thing. So, yeah. Hey, Misty. Yes, I know I am on a very, was just watching the replay of you on Sean's channel. Wow. Gosh, that's right. I was on his channel a couple of years ago. And that was a very early morning for me, but it was well worth it. So, yes. Hi, Jean. So, excuse me. Sorry. Should have kind of muted myself there. But I'm taking a break from the Tula Pink quilt and I am just sewing string blocks. And if you've never seen me sew string blocks, I do like to sew them on, this is just newspaper. I know people that sew it on like muslin or they use some kind of fabric foundation, interfacing. I just go with the cheap stuff and just sew it right onto newspaper. And as I start putting, or if you know me, I use the string blocks in unusual ways. I just don't make a string block, so to speak. In fact, I made a whole video series on it in which I didn't use a string block on the latest video, but I did use a crumb block, and I actually have it right here. Using a 60-degree triangle ruler and some fabric crumbs, kind of sewing them together, cut out 60-degree triangles, and made this star block using it. So, yeah, I tend to use all sorts of stuff to create different looking quilts and have fun with it. So, and besides, I need to kind of wrangle in this string bin because it is getting a little out of hand. Well, out of hand in my definition. And let's see, I made a whole string quilt of nothing but, well, it was a churn dash block, but the blocks were actually made from strings, just like this, where I cut it up into half square triangles, or sometimes I used a full block or full string square. And it turned out actually quite beautiful, if I say so myself. Hey, Pat Strawhouse. How you doing, girl? Hello, Miss June Hansen. Wow, cool star block. Well, thank you, Jean. Newspaper, what's that? Yes, exactly, Misty. Believe it or not, there's still some places that actually print on newspaper. Believe it or not. I will go with this. Nope, that's too small. Ooh, look at this pink. That's a bright color pink. Goes with the bright color green. Is this 1.5? It looks to be. Yep. Let's see. Do I really want to use it or do I want to cut it down? Nah, I'll use it. Seems to be a bit thick though. Well, I'll use part of it and then I'll cut the rest. So I know today is Saturday. I know there's a lot of YouTubers that do live sessions on a Saturday. So who was everybody watching today? Who was it? Jean said that she was watching me and Sean, an old episode of me and Sean. I used to watch Mom and Pop Shop a lot on Saturdays. I wouldn't comment on their in the chat room, but I would kind of just lurk in the background. I know Stephanie Stitches goes on live. She might be on now. Or I don't know if she still does her Saturday lives. It's been a while since I've watched her. That's a little too small, but I can cut it down to a different size. Yeah, this is what I tend to do on here when I'm sewing strings, is I intend on sewing the string, but then when I see a strip like this where I can cut it down to a 1.5, that's what I tend to do. So I do more cutting than sewing. That's for sure. But I kind of feel like I get more use out of the fabric if I do make it into a 1.5-inch square. I know, I can already hear some of you going, 1.5 inches? My gosh, that's teeny tiny. But I am making a collection of 1.5-inch squares here. And I actually am using them, just not on camera, but it is getting or being put to good use. Okay. Sorry, I have to kind of cough. Okay, I apologize. Had to cough for a minute. A little tickle in my throat. Ooh, I remember this fabric. What did I use this in? I don't remember the quilt. Yeah, this was my surprise fabric because, believe it or not, this is a Moda fabric, I believe, which is why it was so surprising to see this. Usually if I think of Moda, I think of solid prints or not so bright colors, but this was a pleasant surprise. Can I get a 1.5? Yep, so that's what I'm gonna do. I think I may have just thrown this fabric in my string bin in the heat of the moment. Not really thinking. But I am glad that I can go through this now and see, or cut this down to a usable square size. So I will throw this. I need to do more sewing, not cutting. Come on. Okay. I'll throw this on the side for a second to cut down later. In fact, maybe that's what I should do. I'll make a stockpile of 1.5-inch strips that I can sew in, or that I can cut down later. You know what? I'll use this pink since I used the pink on that one, and I got it right here. I will chop that off there. Then I can cut this one down, put that in the stockpile. Okay. You know, I do need to get this tulip pink quilt done, so yeah. I am probably gonna be working on it tonight. I just didn't want to do it on a live, or maybe today. Honestly, I just wanted to have a relaxing kind of Saturday. It's been one heck of a week, just for me personally, and for work-wise as well. So just needed, you know, just wanted to have like a relaxing Saturday. Even though I know I scheduled a live session with Katie, I was just gonna do some scrap blocks, sewing strings like this, maybe work on the tulip pink quilt if I was in the mood for it, but right now I just don't feel in the mood for it. And then I got or Katie sent me a message that she wasn't feeling well, so she canceled today's live. And then I thought, okay, I can sleep in. But then I thought, you know what? I don't know if she made any announcements on her channel or if she put a notification out there. And I know that I've been kind of saying that we were going to do this live on Saturday today. So I figured, you know what? Let's just do a quick live session for maybe just an hour or so. Just do string blocks because I know my string bin was getting a little unruly. And besides, I need string blocks anyway, so. Okay. Donna says, I just finished a set for a friend in a nursing home. Placemat, hot pad, flatware case, tissue case, bow cozy, boxy bag, all quilted and now matching. Now making a large tote bag to use as a gift bag. Okay, so you got the whole complete set. Donna, where's mine? Just kidding. Made by Misty says, my go-to was always the phone book. What's a phone book? I'm just kidding. I know what a phone book is. It's that big book that you always used as the booster seat, right? No, that was the encyclopedia. What's an encyclopedia? The primitive version of Google. Okay, I can kind of use this as a piece, even though this is kind of wonky, but I'm going to use it anyway. Yeah, I better cut it down first. Okay. Ooh, it is warm today. October is going to be so busy. I have 3 quilts to quilt and 2 costumes so far to make. Wow, that is a very busy month for you there, Misty. Oh, sorry, Mickey. Okay. Hey, Carissa. How's the hand doing? Hope it's healing. Lizette says bonus live. Yes, Lizette. Yeah, I was supposed to, again, for those of you that are just coming in, I was supposed to be on live with Katie, the Greenland quilter, but she sent me a message earlier today that she wasn't feeling well, so she canceled the live session that I was supposed to do with her on her channel. So I kind of figured, well, let's just do a quick live session here, because I know I've been kind of saying on this channel that I would be joining her today, but she ended up canceling. So just to keep all of you guys informed as to what happened and why we're not on live. And besides, it's giving me a chance to just sew some string blocks, which I needed to do anyway. I am starting to put the Tulip Pink Butterfly together, as you can kind of see behind me, but you know, today was just one of those days where you just don't want to think. You just want to sew something and not think about it. So string blocks it is. But I will be working on, because I do have to get this quilt done before I start moving on with other projects starting next month. So I do need to get moving on this. Of course, I say that and then I work on another project. So isn't that what we do as quilters? So anyhow, I love it when you do string blocks. I can't do random, so when I get time, I rewatch and try to sew strips to listen to you. It really helps. Well, that's good, Donna. You know, if you can't do when you say you can't do random, is it the color or is it just the strip size? Because I know some people have a problem with sewing random widths of strips, and then some others have a problem with the randomness of the colors. And if it's a problem with the randomness of the colors, there is a way around it where you can actually just make a strip set and then call it a string block. Okay, I have no idea where this fabric came from, but you know what? We're gonna use it. Oh, it is a 2.5. Maybe I will cut this down. Oh no, I know why I put this in here, because it's kind of jankety. So yep, in the string block it goes. Even though it's kind of wide. I can trim it down later though. And it's kind of more of a neutral color, if anything. Oh, forgot to turn the light on. Oh no, the light is on. It's not in the right angle. No wonder I can't see. Oh, cameras are off. Sorry. Hello, Miss Joanna. Oh, wrong one. Try to read and press at the same time. Multitasking. Let's see. Hello, Miss Mary. Summery, Kansas. Yes. You know, the strangest weather pattern happened yesterday, because the morning was hot and sunny, but by the afternoon we had thunderstorms here in Las Vegas. And yes, we do get thunderstorms, and I do mean like lightning striking the ground thunderstorms. So it was kind of scary. In certain areas, the power actually went out. And because Las Vegas is so dry of a city, even the lightest drizzle of rain can cause some major floods. And there was some flooding. Fortunately, I took the city bus yesterday, so I didn't have to deal with most of the driving part on my way home. But waiting for the bus in the rain is not a fun thing to do. Well, it's fun when you're a kid because you just don't have a care. I was actually going to use a different expression, but I kind of withheld myself there. But yeah, by the time I actually got on the bus, I was pretty much soaked down to my underwear. Sorry for the visual there. But yeah, who would have thought we had thunderstorms here in Las Vegas where it rarely rains? Well, apparently it does rain. And when it rains, it pours. So, oh, come on. I know you can. Am I that weak that I can't pull this apart and rip it? Okay, it's big enough that I can actually put this in my stash of crumbs. So that's what I'm going to do with this. Searching for more colors. The blue. Is way better. Okay, that's good to hear, Carissa. For your mom's quilt, you can do Dresden sunflowers and purple and white half square triangles. Never thought of that combination. Purple and yellow. That would be an interesting combination. Well, thank you for that, Joanna. So about that quilt, okay, I'm not sure if, well, I do apologize if I didn't make this clear. Because people have been sending me suggestions, but I think it's under the impression that I was asking for suggestions on a quilt that I will make. The idea behind the quilt is more or less something that I will orchestrate it, but I wanted to open it up to have all of you guys participate in it, because if I know for a fact, I mean, if the statistics are correct, I know that being that all of you viewers out there, you're predominantly women. So if the statistics are correct, then probably about a quarter to a half of you might have known somebody, or maybe even some of you are breast cancer survivors. So I wanted to kind of make it more of a community type of quilt where people can participate in it by sewing a portion of a quilt block. And so that's where the idea is really coming from. It's not just something that I'm going to make specifically for my mother. Well, I am making it for her, but I wanted to make it something where everybody who's been affected by breast cancer can actually participate in this should they want to. One thing about my mom is that she's the type of person where she will struggle in silence. And so if she knows that, I mean, she knows other people that have been affected by breast cancer. again, if the statistics are right, yes. There's, but when it comes to her, she keeps quiet about a lot of things. And so it's usually my brothers that have to tell me what's really going on with mom. Because again, she was, she's Asian. And in the Asian culture, you suffer in silence. You don't make it a burden on other people to take care of you. So yeah, she kind of grew up with that. But I figured if I do know my own mother, and I hopefully do know her, if she knows that there are other people out there, even people she's never met, then she'll feel much more at ease, much more relaxed. So the idea behind the quilt was to make it so that should any of you want to be a part of the project, you could sew or you could just kind of cut the fabric for a small portion of a quilt block and send it in, and then I can kind of put it together. And then when we give it to her, or when I present it to her, she'll, it'll be kind of like everybody's there to support her in that respect. So that was the idea behind it. Now, I've gotten suggestions about making gloves, mittens, quilt coats, but that, to me, that kind of felt like it was some people were suggesting those that I could make it for her, in which I could. But again, the idea behind this project was so that for those of you who have been affected by breast cancer or know of somebody that was maybe had it, overcame it, or maybe they did pass away from it, if you wanted to lend your support, this is one way as a quilter that you could do it. So that was the idea behind the project, and I hope that that kind of clarifies it a little bit. Oh, thank you, Laurie. She said the background looks fantastic. The background, if you're talking about the Tula Pink quilt that's behind me, that's actually just the batting. Oh, boy. Oh, string hearts. Huh. That would be interesting. I know she doesn't. I'm trying not to do anything like the pink ribbon, something kind of cliche, because she wouldn't want something to remind her that she has cancer. So something more cheerful, which is why I thought of the sunflower or doing like a Dresden. Okay, yes, let's all pray for Katie that she gets well. It's unfortunate that she's feeling ill, so which is why she had to cancel today. But hope that she feels better after getting some rest. Okay. Donna says, I just can't do random at all. Sizes, pattern, color, any of it. I tried tossing strips into a paper bag for my rag rugs. Still had to make sure there was a pattern. Donna, there's nothing wrong with that. If it's, well, suggestions that I've heard, and I think these are actually good suggestions, is if you can't, or if you have a problem with random, then start with baby steps. Make a strip set of maybe different shades of a certain color and just cut them to the same size. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't necessarily have to make it like this, where it's all random colors and random widths of fabric. Just start with, maybe you can do shades of blue or shades of pink, and then just sew maybe 2.5-inch strips together. I mean, that could be a string block, couldn't it? Start off simple, or start off to a point where you're comfortable with it. That was one of the things that I struggled with when I first started doing scrap quilts was just the randomness of it, because like a lot of people, my brain started to look for the pattern. And I kind of forced myself to do it, but I know for some people that'll be hard to do. So, start with maybe just a simple color palette, or maybe sewing 1.5 or 2.5 inch strips in that color palette together. Who was it? I think, was it Katie? Or maybe it was somebody else. But there was another person, I think it was Katie, where she also had problems trying to put scrap pieces together because her brain kind of was not, she was looking for that pattern. And so she started out doing exactly what I just said, working with a specific color pattern and then just doing different shades of that color. And as soon as she made her first block, she was surprised at how much she liked it, because it was something for her, or it was something different for her to do. Okay. Where is that string coming from? There it is. And now she can't stop doing scrap blocks, which is why she keeps having me on her channel. No, but we have fun when we do lives together. We always have an interesting conversation, though. I'm always curious about how her life changed when she moved to Greenland, because originally she is from the US. And she's always curious about what scrap project I'm doing. And then we end up talking about various things about life and, well, off camera, a little bit about politics, because I know she's in Greenland and there's a situation between the US and Greenland. But I'm not going to get into that here. Ooh, it is warm today. Let's see, how far? Hello, Miss Kim. Still at the daughter's. Can't stay cooking supper and taking care of the kids. Well, thanks for stopping in, Kim. Gosh, did you see where those 2 hikers got struck by lightning? So terrible. I'm always scared of that. That I would be caught out in one of those thunderstorms and I would be the one hit by lightning, because, well, I'm kind of closer to the sky than most normal people. Okay. So for those of you who have never seen me in person before, I know it looks a little different on camera, but I actually do stand 6 feet 6 inches tall. So if you ever see pictures of me and Tiffany together, I'm here, Tiffany's here. Even Becca, I'm here, Becca's down here. Now Ian, I think, is 6'2", so I'm a little taller than him. But yeah, people are always surprised to see how tall I am in person if they don't know, or if they only see me on camera or on YouTube. They're like, wow, you really are tall. I'm like, I told you so. Hello, Miss Denise. I closed my eyes on the visual soaking. Okay, sorry about that, Donna. Hi, Gloria. Denise says we had rain for once in SoCal. Nice, hard dancing on the rooftop rain. Oh, somebody had a little fun. You know, I always like it after a good rain, especially when I was living in Los Angeles because everything was so clean. The air was nice and fresh the day after, and you didn't have all the smog and pollution in the air. So, yeah, that was one part of the rain that I did like. And yes, it does rain in Los Angeles as well. I need my 6.5-inch ruler. I will trim that, trim that. And I think I got a little bit of the newspaper, but that's okay. Trim there, and voila. You have a nice looking string block. I can probably take this off. Throw that in the crumb bin. Nope. Everything else can go. Yeah. And I'm just going to cut this little piece off because, oops. Okay. Is that the Los Angeles Times you're sewing on? I think so. Yeah, we used to get the LA Times in our office when I was living in Los Angeles. And we used to just throw away the paper afterwards. And I'm like, there's got to be some good use I can put to that. So I took a bunch of issues home and made 6.5-inch squares as a foundation for string blocks. So 2 more. So, whoa. Don't know what this is doing at the bottom. Look at that. Google Cloud. Okay, let's pick up some strings. And I don't know why, but I like to start with a white string right down the center. And I will build off of that. But this one doesn't, barely makes it. I will use that. And let's see. I'll start with this brown. Use the black. And you just take out a few. Sorry, I hit the camera there. Ooh, that's pretty. We'll use this blue. Always fun to go through your scraps and then try and figure out what quilt did I use this in. Can't remember. And I always have some piece of thread that is always poking through. And if you haven't noticed, I don't trim all the frays off. I just leave it on there. And sometimes it kind of makes its way through, but you know, it's a string block or it's a scrap piece of fabric, so it doesn't really bother me so much. And most of it just gets trimmed off anyway as I start to square up the block. So now the paper on this one already tore, but that's okay. And I just buried my rotary cutter in there. Cut here and cut there. Put that to the side. And I can pull this off. Nope. Okay, we'll try this one. There we go. And we'll try this one. God, I feel weak. Maybe my hand strength is not what it used to be. Okay, I give up. Although I do like this fabric here. The rest can be dumped into my little wastebasket, and then I will throw these in the crumb bin. Okay. I didn't realize Ian was that tall. Yeah, he is pretty tall. Again, he doesn't look it. We don't look like we're that tall on camera, but in person, sometimes it's quite shocking how tall, or even the opposite, how short a person can be. Okay, thank you, June. Saying great block. Lightning struck in my bedroom in the middle of the night years ago. It blew a hole in the wall. I don't like lightning anymore. Oh, I wouldn't blame you there, Gloria. That would freak me out. Okay, we'll use that. And I have a separate bin, believe it or not, where I just have nothing but white strips. So I will start with that. I don't know why I always like to start a string with a white strip down the center. Don't ask me why, but that's just one of those things where I can't explain it. It is what it is. Alrighty then. We'll lay this. Okay, call me crazy, but I think this strip is only 3/4 of an inch wide. No, it is an inch. Okay. And I am using it. So it'll finish to about 3/4 of an inch. Well, that is if I sew my accurate 1/4 inch seam. And I did not sew an accurate 1/4 inch seam because I can already see that I veered off a little bit, but you know what? It's a string block. I really don't care. And I will press that back, or finger press that back at least. Now I see this. You know, you have those fabrics where you thought you used up all of it, but then you find bits and pieces of it everywhere. That's this green fabric for me. I thought I was completely rid of this, but then I find bits of it. Yeah, that's a little too small for me. Yeah, that's not going to make it in. So hopefully this is the last of it. Found a stash, small stash of it. And I said, I thought I was rid of this, but apparently not. You look tall on camera. Oh, do I? Well, that's reassuring. Hello, Hi, Donnell. I'm just sewing string blocks today, so nothing groundbreaking or earth-shattering or lightning strikes. And even though there's a lot of ugliness back here, when you press it and you trim it, it looks so clean and so beautiful. Until you get a little fray like this showing up in the front. And like this. Of course, this happens as soon as I say that. And I got strings all over me. Okay, come on. Maybe I should have actually trimmed this down a little bit just to cut off the frays before I sewed it on here. That's okay. Okay, let's use this pink. Use up this pink. Well, I just zoomed through that one real quick. Do you always sew the strings on the diagonal? Most of the times I do, Terry. I don't. Sometimes I just kind of go a little, or I do something different. Most of the times I do sew it on the diagonal. I just kind of find that the way I use these blocks, it'll turn out a lot better. Sometimes, but as proof, yes, sometimes I do just sew them straight up and down or horizontally across, like this block, for example. On this one, I actually used a dryer sheet foundation instead of a newspaper. So just another item that you can use. Of course, this is a used dryer sheet, not a fresh one, but I just kind of, after I used it in a load of laundry, just kind of took my iron, pressed it down. It actually cleaned the iron too, ironically. And then just made it flat and then cut it to a usable size. Let's see, do I have another one? Perhaps I don't. Well, there is another one. Now this one, okay, so this one I did all in shades of red. You could also do a half square triangle situation where one is all similar colors or a background color and the other half is all prints. Then of course, you know, it's a half square triangle, so any design that you can think of with a half square triangle, you can kind of sew it together and just make a quilt block out of it. I was experimenting with this for a little while, and just saying, okay, I can just do that. But then I thought, you know what? I can sew it on, since I'm already sewing these things on the diagonal, I can make a whole half square triangle just with the string and a solid piece of fabric. So I stopped doing that after a while because it just didn't make sense to do it. But I don't know, but the amount of solids or the amount of white strings that I have, I might be doing that again. Let's see here. Tiff is tiny. Yeah. Well, comparatively, standing next to me, she does look tiny. Good night, Kim. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, I'm going to use this very thick black. Scissors, cut the strip. And we'll press this back, finger press that. Since these are complete, I'll move these out of the way. And I got more strings on my ironing board I just dumped on there. I'll just use this. I am not one to be very picky. Well, I try not to use the same fabric within the same string block, but sometimes I just do it because, well, if it fits. Okay. Hey, Patty. Does the dryer sheet come off the back like the paper? No, it does not. So if you are using the dryer sheet, I actually just leave it in there. If you, well, I suppose you could try and pull it off, but I would imagine that it's not gonna come off very easily, and you're gonna pull your stitches off. So whenever I do use the dryer sheets, not just for string blocks, but if I'm doing like an applique quilt or an applique piece, I just leave it in there. And thus far, it hasn't done anything to the quilt. It just stays in there. I'm going to use this brown. Okay. String quilts, by the way, an excellent way to practice your 1/4 inch seam if you're just starting out. I picked up an aisle runner super thin, lightweight interfacing. I use it all the time. Yeah, I know people that used interfacing. I know people that used newspaper like this, phone book paper, regular paper. I mean, there's no right or there's no wrong. Well, actually, there could be a wrong, but just use whatever you got. or whatever you feel like using. If it's newspaper, use the newspaper if that's what you have. If you got interfacing that you want to just use up, go ahead and use it up. If you got muslin or some less desirable fabric that you want to use as a foundation, go ahead and use it. I mean, there's no rule that you have to use one particular foundation. And truth be told, some people don't even use a foundation. Like, they just sew the strings together without the piece of paper or without anything in the back. That's fine too. If there's one thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way, it's when people tell me that I'm wrong and that the only way to do it is the way they were taught. I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking that or for feeling that way? Where is the thread? Something is caught. There it is. Okay. A little byproduct. If you don't trim your threads or your frays, sometimes they can get wrapped around the needle as you sew it. And that's not a good thing because it can affect your sewing. Okay, I think I will use this pop of pink here, but it's not exactly. I'm just going to chop it off there because this is too thin to use up, so. But I can use this part at least. Hi, Suzanne. I was thinking they would be a good place for my granddaughters to start. That is Terry. This actually, that's not a bad thought there, Terry. If you want to teach children or teaching somebody how to sew, this would actually make a good project for them. Because again, you'll get practice out of sewing your 1/4-inch seam. And you have fun doing it too. And if the 1/4-inch or if your seam allowance is way off, doesn't really matter. It's a scrap block. It'll improve over time and very quickly, I would add. Plink the cat. Hello, hello. No, lots of different ways to do so many things. Mary says, I agree, Eric. There are so many ways to do everything in quilting. Yep. But, you always get that one person, and, I mean, they're free to express their opinions. But you always have that one person that says, no, I do it this way, and this way is better. Well, maybe it's better for you. But not everybody has the same situation or not everybody can afford to spend money on interfacing. And who's to say that you have to use interfacing on a quilt? Again, quilt police, right? Okay, now I want to make sure that I do cover, whoops. I am approaching the corner, so if I use this, well, let's cut that little and coincidentally, this fabric actually came from the Tula Pink block, which if you were watching on Wednesday, here's that is the one of the completed blocks. And I do say that I like this combination. Although I don't like this block because I do have a little bit of a pucker right here, but that's okay. It's going to get quilted out. See, another byproduct of making a string block. Sometimes you just go down memory lane and you remember the quilt block or the quilt for good reasons and bad reasons. Okay. I didn't use this, but I'm going to save that because this is a much longer piece. I need something kind of wide. Do I have a triangle? Let's look in the crumb bin for something. Yeah, this will do. Whoops. Am I still on? Yep, we're still on. Sorry, just dropped a little bit of my audio equipment there. This fabric, anybody remember where this fabric came from? Because it was on a video. That would be a good quilter's game. Where did you use this fabric? Okay, no, blue on blue, not good there. Oh, I could use this again. Yeah, that'll be thick enough, so yep, let's use this, although it is a neutral color. I'm just putting randomness together. And it's funny because in the world of quilting, randomness plus randomness equals beautiful. So, okay, I'm off to deliver dinner to Mom. Eric, always a pleasure. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and Sunday. Don't forget, only 89 days until Christmas. Well, thank you, Misty. I was just actually thinking about that today. How many more days do I have before I have to deliver Mom's ornament order? Yes, she did give me an ornament order, but and this year I have to do it, no excuses, because of her situation. She's still giving me orders about that, even in her condition. But it's not a crazy order like she has done in the past. And besides, it's Mom. Can't say no to Mom. I just need a little sliver of this piece because it's just a teeny tiny corner. Scissors. Yeah, I used to have the scissors. Well, the scissors is on the lanyard because I used to wear it on me like this, but I know it's going to irritate the microphone and you'll hear it on your end, so I don't do that anymore. Well, I don't do that on a live session anymore. And Gloria Garris says, no, it doesn't matter how you do it as long as the end result is the same. Exactly. But you always have people that have their strong opinions. And again, they're more than welcome to have their opinion. Just don't go pointing the finger at somebody and saying that they're wrong, is my point to it. I already used that on there. Let's see. Yep, that triangle will work. You mentioned one time that you leave paper on until you put it in a quilt or project. I started doing that now when I use paper and love the structure. Yeah, it does. The paper, again, the paper is actually to kind of hold the pieces together because when you do sew blocks with a lot of seams like this, it tends to stretch and distort. So I try to I try to leave the paper in until I got the completed block, or if I maybe even get the quilt top done. But usually once the block is done, that's when I start pulling the paper out. And when you sew these blocks together, or when you sew like a string block to even another piece of fabric or another string block, that paper kind of comes in handy because again, you're dealing with the stretch, and especially because I'm doing kind of sewing these on a diagonal, there's a lot of bias that ends up being there. And sometimes I cut these strips on the bias and don't even realize that. So having this paper and leaving it on in there until you get the blocks put together, it prevents it from stretching so much. But having said that, let me tell you, ripping out this paper is not a fun chore. Which is why I started to using, or for a time that I started using dryer sheets. But, you know, when I was doing laundry living in LA, doing laundry, would you believe it was $9 a load? So I had to kind of cut corners a little bit. And I started, well, I didn't use the dryer, but I did, of course I had to use the washer, and that in and of itself was like $6.50 a load. And then to put it, I mean, if I wanted to put it in the dryer, that's about another $3 to $4. So yeah, you were looking at $9 a load. Come on. Any guesses where this fabric was used? Hey, Claudia. Boy, am I ever late. Sorry. Hello. No problem, Claudia. I mean, I know this is not a usual time where I'm on live, so. But you're here. That's the main thing. Also, do you save the trimmings for crumbs? Yeah, I do. Some of these, like what I'm doing, as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of ripping some of the larger pieces off. And yeah, I do throw these in the crumb bin. Or sometimes like a weird piece like this, when you get to the edge of your paper, if you are using a foundation, when you get to those corners, that's where pieces like this can really come in handy. You know what? I'm just going to take this white piece off, and there. That's a whole crumb piece. Let's see. Now I'll get rid of that. I do want to save this pink, though. This is a very pretty fabric. So we'll just cut it there. And we'll cut this piece off. Crumb. Bam. Okay, I must have really good tension on the sewing machine because I can't seem to pull any of these pieces off. So that must mean that the sewing on this machine is really good right now. And I can't pull this one off. Actually, do I even want to save this? Nah. So there's another one. And let's see, I'll do, what time is it? How long have we been on here? Oh, almost an hour and a half. Okay, I'll start another one. And this will be the last two for the live. So I actually wasn't planning on staying alive for this long, maybe an hour. But time flies when you are sewing, right? And having fun doing it. So, and I'm definitely having fun doing this. I always have fun sewing strings because it's mindless, it's thoughtless. Well, not thoughtless, but don't have to think too hard. And you just sew. Let's do that. Let's use up this pretty peach color, although it kind of comes out more reddish. Hello, Sandra. Now I'm giving the butterfly quilt a break for today. And I'm just sewing on some strings here, making some string blocks. Sometimes you just gotta have a day to sew strings. Okay, I am going to okay, so just kind of ironed it and pressed it from the back. Trim that. Trim it there. I think I cut the paper a little bit on that side, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Trim it there. Trim it there. Another block done. Another square done. And another little piece of thread that got caught here in the seam. And I don't know how, but this that string came from this and it made its way all the way down there. I don't know how. Okay. I'll save that. And I think, well, I can take that off and I can start a crumb piece with this. I will definitely save this rather large turquoise piece here, even though it's a little curved. And I think I will just take the rest and dump that into a bag where I can use it as filler. All right. Hey, Sin. I agree, it's relaxing. Well, thank you there, Sandra. Notifications didn't happen. Well, you made it, so that's the main point to it. Okay. And Carissa says, I'm sewing those hundreds of star blocks I made into rows. Finally, I can't really cut with the rotary cutter yet. Glad I saved them for something to do. Well, that sounds encouraging. At least now you can use your hand. Okay. And I always do this. I always dump out a bunch of strings, and then I don't like any of these, so I look in my bin for another another set of strings or something else. Okay, let's see if I can just make a string, make a square string with just whatever I have in this pile. So I'll do it on this one. That one, I can use whatever. And again, this green fabric is reappearing, making its another appearance in here. I'm so over this green fabric though. This green fabric was used in a scrap quilt. My very first string block, or string quilt, I should say. It was the background, and I didn't want to use like a natural or a neutral color. So I thought this green color would kind of go with all the different colors that I had going on in there, because I had blues, reds, greens, blacks, all of those colors, and I thought this green was kind of a neutral color or a nice medium to all of it, so I used it as a background. Problem was, or the mistake that I made was, I bought 6 yards of it because I thought, well, I didn't know how big this quilt was going to end up being. So those days, 6 yards was like my magic number that if I don't know how much I need, I just say, oh, just give me 6 yards. And it was only $4 a yard too, because it was on clearance. And now I know why it was on clearance, because it's not the greatest fabric. Although in the right quilt, it will look beautiful. And it did look beautiful in that string quilt. But after a while, you just get so done with the fabric. And I'm still finding bits and pieces of it here and there. Okay, I just zoomed through that. And oops, sorry about the camera. That's a lot of the reasons I don't save scraps on this Tula, because once a project is done, I'm very over staring at the fabric I used. So about your mom's 9-inch finished purple Dresden blocks mailed to you by the end of October. Hold off on that, Lizette. I kind of need to make a final decision about what I'm gonna do with that, but I am leaning towards doing some kind of Dresden block where people can just kind of send or make a blade of the Dresden, not the whole block, and we'll do it in a certain shade of, well, certain color. Let's just put it that way. I'm not sure. Haven't worked out the logistics of all of that just yet, so. But I will be making a decision on that very soon. Oh, did I break thread? Nope. Thought I did there for a second. And when I say soon, by the end of this week, or by the time you'll see me on the next live, which is Wednesday night, am I on? Yeah. I'll have a decision made. And I'm asking some other friends too what they've done in similar situations. So. Okay, hang on. Ooh, got threads all over me. I'm taking a break from shredding scraps to fill dog beds for the shelter. That's Lizette. I never did make a dog bed. I should actually do that once, huh? Actually, that's a good question. Is there an animal shelter here? I'm pretty sure there would be. But I've never, I don't know. Never actually seen it. There must be some kind of humane society. Well, at least I would think there would be one. Whoa. Sorry, the trash collection guys are outside. And I think they just dropped the whole trash bin because there was a big loud thump outside there. So. Whoa, what the heck are they doing out there? I know it can't be the weather because it's nice and sunny out there, so there's not thunder. Choo, 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 choo. Okay, I will use this one on here. Let's go with the end that doesn't have the selvage. And we shall sew. Okay, don't know what happened with that, but I know that has nothing to do with what's going on outside. Oh, didn't know Humane Society has a thrift store. Well, maybe some of them do. Oh, did not know that. I'm listening, but with eyes closed. Okay. Well, don't force yourself there, Mary. It's okay if you need to go. Are you using newspaper magazine pages as your foundation? Yes, I am, Sandra. This is newspaper that I am using, and I am cutting this fray there. I liked, well, again, um, as I was mentioning before, we used to get the LA Times in our office when I was working or living in Los Angeles, and they still do a newsprinted version of their newspapers or a paper version of their newspaper. So we used to get it in the office, and after a week or so, we would just kind of dump it or just recycle it or trash it. And I said, there's got to be something I can do with this newspaper. So I took a couple issues home and cut it up into 6.5-inch squares, and that's what I'm using. And I'm still using it. Well, kind of caught a pucker on there. That. It'll be fine. It's not on the foundation anyway, so it won't be part of the block. One thing about strings, you get a lot of frays. Do I trim it down? Nope. I guess this fabric doesn't really have a wrong or right side because they both look the same to me. So I'm just gonna sew it on right like that. Okay, this is a little too thick there. So maybe I will trim it to, oh yeah, that's about a 2.5-inch. So I'll trim it down a little bit. There. And we can continue on. With, let's see, we got green in there, we got blue, and I think I'm starting to repeat fabrics there, so let's go with this. Although this is a little thin, it'll be just enough for a little pop of color here. Press that back. I took a scrappy class at a local quilt show. The instructor actually started with a light strip in the middle. Okay. Kind of do the same thing. with the white. I notice though a lot of people do that. They'll start with some consistent strip in the middle, and then the rest of it is just whatever. Now, I don't remember using this fabric. And I did it. I grabbed in the bin. But you know what? I've already used all of these fabrics on both of these blocks, so I had to do it. Okay. What is that? Okay. I had to check if who's texting me. Although I have a green already, I'll just use this lime green just for a little bit right there. I'll use this side. Chop it off here. Okay. Now, let's see. I'll use the black. I don't think it's going to make it all the way, but we shall see. Sandra Cedar says, I save catalogs I receive from the companies when the pages are nearly tissue thin. I like old phone books. They're great. Oftentimes can use both sides of fabrics. Yeah. I mean, on a string block, it doesn't really matter because, again, you are just sewing scraps. So I've done it where, or I've done scrap blocks where I've actually sewn on the wrong side purposely because I kind of thought that the back looked nicer than the front, or the wrong side actually looked better than the front, or the wrong side actually looked better than the right side. So oddly enough, for a very long time in my home state of Hawaii, there was actually a period where that was actually a fad where you would wear like an aloha shirt or aloha print, Hawaiian print fabrics. They're usually really bright and really colorful, but some people don't like that. So what some of the clothing designers were doing was they were actually using the wrong side of the fabric and creating like aloha shirts, resort wear out of it, and it became a very popular fad. I think there are still, it's still in style to do that. So, because some people just don't like the big bold prints and a lot of color. They just wanted a little color, but something a little more tame and muted. So that's what the designers started doing. Okay, I'm gonna sew a little bit more on this side. Do this green since it's here, even though I have this green here. got just a teeny. Okay, so at this point, I can look in my crumb bin to see what I got that can cover up the side triangles. I think this might work. Yeah, that'll work. Toss that aside for a second. Let me line this up a little better. Oops, my little outlet fell down there. Okay. And let's see, I missed origami quilt. When did you do that? I'd love to see that. Origami quilt. Oh, the paper crane. Yeah. So the origin of the scrap that you questioned, I'm going to say you used that in some, or you used some of it on the origami quilt. Okay, it wasn't actually the origami quilt. It was called the paper crane quilt. And it was part of the series that Sobeka was sponsoring. She chose 12 designers to be part of that project, and so not sure what happened with the quilt, but there was myself and 11 other YouTubers that we each did a row of a quilt, and when it came to my section, I decided to do the paper crane, or the paper crane block. I don't have it because I did send it off, which I was supposed to do. And I'm not sure whatever happened to that quilt, but if you look at, or if you search for the video for the paper crane quilt, you can find it on, I think it's part of the playlist for, well, let me just look it up since I'm sitting here at the computer, duh. I don't know if I can show it though. Is it going to allow me to show my computer screen? No, it's not. It's called the Paper Crane Quilt. It's part of a playlist that I call With Every Stitch. It was the last video that I put up as part of that playlist. Sorry, let me see if I can actually put the link to the video. And paste it there. Hope that works. Okay, but Donna, you got it right. That Asian fabric Where did it go now? That piece of fabric actually did come from one of those blocks, so you got it right. Please don't tell me you actually went searching for that video. No, I'm kidding. It's great that you did. It's fine. Okay, I need another corner piece anyway, so that's not gonna work. This'll work, I think. Okay, did I grab it? Yep, you got enough of that. And I need, what did I just do with it? Oh, there. That might be a little too short. No. Okay, I can sew it on. It is a weird piece, but we'll make it work. Okay, and I got a little sliver here at the corner, so is that gonna be enough? Nope. But you know what? I will make this. No, that's not gonna work. This might work. No, too close for comfort. Okay. That's too small. Already got a black. That's too much of an awkward shape. This'll work, I think. Yeah, that'll work. If I just sew a little bit of a scant 1/4 inch, we can make this work. That worked. This worked. I can put the crumb in back. I will iron this flat because it is starting to bow on me. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Yes, Donna. Maybe next time I'll do that on, if I'm sewing scraps or crumbs on a live, I will quiz people. Hey, do you remember what video this is on? Maybe you can win a prize. But sorry, not this time, Donna. But yeah, sometimes when you go through these scraps, you find some of those old fabrics, and it just brings back memories, good and bad memories, of putting a quilt or putting that particular quilt together. When I did the paper cranes, I learned a lesson. Paper piecing is really not my jam. I could do it, but not something I thoroughly enjoyed. But you can't argue that paper piecing will give you very, very clean and very accurate points. That's for sure. I don't know why I feel the need to save that fabric, because it's not the prettiest fabric in my opinion, but hey, it's still fabric, so I'll use it. Okay, one more, and I am gonna sew off onto a little piece of scrap here. Ooh, just cut the corner. Okay, I'm a huge fan of the paper cranes. Oh, thank you. No wonder you remember that fabric. Okay, isn't it amazing what beautiful scraps make? To think that they are tossed by many, they make beautiful fabric. Yes, they do. Okay, so I can clear this off and throw that back in the... Well, I made a little bit of a dent here in my string bins. Somewhat. Yeah, a little bit of a dent, but to me, in my fabric room, this is kind of unruly. So this is when I start to get, like, if it gets to be overflowing from this small container, then yeah, I get going and start using it up. I don't let it get out of hand. And I got more strings to actually contribute to it because, well, this quilt, I got a lot of extra small pieces, so I'm going to be throwing it into that bin. So good timing that I do this now so I can make a little bit of room into that small little bin. And I already have my next scrap project planned out because, well, I needed to make more room for all my scraps, or the new scraps that I made. So I'll put that there. And I don't know why I feel the need to do this, but I need to pluck this thread out. And did I get it? Got it. Okay, I will cut this part off, and this is going in the crumb bin, as will this blue strip here. Oh, well, I'll just cut it from here. And I will again, don't need to pull these threads out, but I just feel the need to do it. Okay, the rest can, yeah, I don't want to save any of these. Well, maybe I'll save this little small sliver of a blue as a teeny tiny crumb piece. The rest can go. And these can all go in the crumb bin. Now this is getting full, so you'll see me working on these in between all the other stuff. Whoops, some crumb pieces fell out, so toss that in there. Yeah, so I gotta sew some more crumbs. All right, so got that one done. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them done. Not bad for string session. Oh, cameras are going off. Okay, so I'll just catch up on some comments and we will call it a live. Whoa, why did I do that? Sorry, just kind of closed out my screen there. Okay. Was it a legit? No, I never did do a legit kit. No. It was actually not a... Oh, I know what she's talking about. She's talking about the crane quilt pattern. It was not a legit kit. It is available on someone's website. I forgot who that person is, but if you read the comments section on the crane quilt video, I think I put the link in there to say where you can get the pattern from. If you don't find it, just send me an email. I can kind of find it for you and then send you the link on the email. Huge. Let's see. Isn't it? Oh, sorry. Read that. Love it. I was a scrap and salvage saver before it was cool. My fellow quilters laughed at me. Who's laughing now? Definitely you. It's the OCD in us, Eric. Yes, it is. Sometimes, well, I don't consider myself to have OCD, but sometimes you just gotta. Okay, so most people, when they do string blocks, they will do it, or they'll sew it into some pattern or some design like this. A lot of times I like to use string blocks in different ways. And again, I've made a whole series of videos doing other things with string blocks, in which I'm almost done with that quilt. Just gotta think of one last block to do. Is it this bin? Yep. Maybe I can do a show and tell off of this. Oh, here's one. Oh, no, here's the other one. So this was also made with strings. This was a favorite that a lot of people did like. Here is a Dresden block. Well, this Dresden, the blades were actually made out of crumbs that I sewed together. Here's one that I made using a specialty ruler. So different examples of what you can do with strings when you sew them or use them to make other blocks. That's another one, rather than just doing the plain string block. Oh, here's the Dresden that I actually used strings on. Have a video for that. And this one, I made a whole quilt. Strings and just churn dash blocks. So different ideas of what you can do with a string block. And this is why, well, I usually have a stack of them around just so that if I ever feel like creating something using strings, I have a stack of them ready to go. And it's very unusual that I don't have as many because, well, I've been using these string blocks or these string squares. So, yeah, this is unusually low for me. But as you can kind of see, just by that small example, I've been using them. So, yeah. All right, guys, that is it for this live session. This was a little longer than I expected it to be, but I was having fun sewing strings and time kind of flew by me. So, let's see, any last minute questions? I don't see any. That's a cool layout. Well, thank you. Thank you. Donna says, Sandra, I wish I have saved some of the scraps through the years I've donated all over the world. Now postage is out of my price range. Sad to say it's even out of my price range in some cases. All right, guys. So that is it for now. Thank you for joining me on this unannounced live. Katie, I hope if you do see the replay on this, I hope you're feeling better. And yep, the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So ideas for you to use up those strings and more of your scraps. So yeah. Okay, guys, I shall see you guys on Wednesday. Yeah, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I will turn the cameras on late tomorrow night. Who knows? But don't quote me on that because I make no promises, because I do need to concentrate on this quilt behind me to get it done. So yeah. But thank you guys again for joining me. Again, this was totally unannounced and totally last minute, but again, Katie, I hope you feel better if you are watching this on the replay. And yeah, so that's it for now. Take care. Have a great rest of your week. And let's all get out there. Let's all create something. Bye for now. Where's the button? There it is.